It is 7 o'clock. I'll call to order the August 6th meeting of the Amity City Council. Please join me in the flag salute. Thank you. Tasha, will you take roll first, please?
Present.
Here.
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 Here. Thank you. We'll start off this evening with the consent agenda. We have budgets versus actuals on a brand new fiscal year as our only item. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Consent agenda passes. We'll move on to citizen comments and questions. An opportunity to present items not on the regular agenda. We have the sheriff's office report in our packet. Anyone in the audience with a question or comment tonight? Okay, and I don't see anyone else online. We will move on to old business. And our first item is adoption of the annexation ordinance. This will be a second reading of ordinance 687. I'll open it up to ask if there's any questions, comments from council or anything from staff to add.
Nothing specific to add. I apologize that we skipped a month in there, but I was reminded of it when the applicant's attorney reached out and just asked when this was happening, and I was like, oh, well, part of it's already happened, but we're not quite finished. Let us finish it. So here it is.
So I would ask for a motion to read the ordinance by title only.
I move to adopt ordinance 687, an ordinance declaring territory annexed to the city of Amity and amending the Amity zoning map to read by title only.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to read by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. Now, Nathan, will you read the ordinance title for us?
Yes, this is City of Amity Ordinance number 687, an ordinance declaring territory annexed to the City of Amity and amending the Amity zoning map.
Now, do you want me to do my motion?
Sure.
I move to adopt ordinance 687, an ordinance declaring territory annexed to the city of Amity and amending the Amity zoning map.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 687. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Ordinance 687, an ordinance declaring territory annexed to the city of Amity and amending the Amity zoning map is approved. New business this evening, we'll start with an OLCC application. This is the same application we saw last month. They submitted the wrong paperwork. So it's essentially for the same event, correct? The single event? Other than that, I don't think there was any changes.
No discussion? I move to approve the OLCC liquor license application and special events liquor license application for J. Cortel Wines LLC, DBA Cortel Collection at 502 Trade Street.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving OLCC liquor license application and special events liquor license application for J. Cortel Wines LLC, DBA Cortel Collections at 502 Trade Street, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Please signify by saying no. License and event liquor license approved. Our next item is Grant Young Memorial Planning Grant Agreement. This is the $2,000 grant offered to the City of Amity from the Department of Land Conservation and Development. It sounds pretty cut and dry that you apply and are usually granted. So this is the grant agreement in front of us. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Nathan?
Not specifically. I've received this grant the first time in 2023, right after I started. And like I said, in my agenda item, it's really general. They just want to support cities in doing their planning efforts in general. And so basically any planning effort we undertake outside of applicant/fee driven, right, it can be used for this grant.
So what do you think it will be used for?
We've talked about, that is a good question. Generally, I've been able to use, I've been able to go through $2,000 just over a few months via questions and other coordination.
Okay.
But there have been other things that we've talked about doing, right? Our COG planner is still supporting us in adoption of our comprehensive plan. So that, will require some time, a little bit of time as we move forward. And then there were a few things, I'm trying to think if there were a few other code updates that we've talked about doing, but I haven't finalized which ones we might be able
But
to
mostly it'll offset the planning costs that we incur on a monthly basis.
Yes, yes. Mostly
okay.
it can be used for those anyway, so.
Okay. And any gift is great, and we appreciate the grant funds, but it is a small amount, so we can't really have a significant undertaking just solely on that. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. I'm just not familiar with this. So this is grant money and it's just general?
This is one of the rare exceptions where basically they send out a letter, say, here, sign this, promise that you'll use it for planning, and then I can send back invoices proving that we used it for planning, and then they give us $2,000. It's a really rare exception to the grant. I think it comes from the name, and it has in the offer letter about being the Grant Young Memorial Grant, or Memorial Planning Assistance Grant. I should probably look more into the history of who Grant Young was, but I imagine he was a strong proponent of small and coastal cities going through planning efforts to update code and implement successful planning programs. And he probably left DLCD some money to continue those efforts.
Perhaps he was someone who was at one point a city administrator who never had enough money to get anything done well. And he finally did well.
Let me help somebody,
Yeah,
hopefully.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine.
I'm saying most grants come with more strings attached. This one really is
Okay, all right.
pretty easy.
All right.
He was a Northwest Regional Representative for the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development, passed away in 2017.
There you go.
So it was his life's work.
And
he's
this was
still giving
a
back.
program that had existed since 1991, and they renamed it in his honor.
Oh, okay.
What was it called before that?
planning assistance grants. Yeah.
Colorful, okay.
I think there has been growing recognition that small and rural cities, especially in Oregon, that has pretty stringent planning and zoning laws, the small cities struggle to keep up with the edge of ever-changing legislation. And so I think that there have been these avenues of funding, knowing that without the state support, we would fall further and further behind, and many times out of compliance. And so they recognize this is a burden, this is an unfunded mandate, so we will give you a little bit of funding because we're gonna mandate that you keep it up to our standard. That's my personal insight, but I've seen it a time or two. Do I have a motion on this agenda item?
I move to approve the agreement to receive the Grant Young Memorial Planning Assistance.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agreement to receive the Grant Young Memorial Planning Assistance. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. Our last item of new business is Housing Capacity Analysis Grant Application. Thank you. This was a little bit of a later addition to our packet. I think we've all had a chance to read the background, but I would love to hear how this came about and is before us tonight. Please.
Honestly, it was a bit of a surprise to myself. This was a grant opportunity that I had considered and had kind of, I had prioritized it a little bit lower, and said, if I have time, I'll submit an application. I didn't end up finding time for it, but our planner did. Our COG planner did put together an application for us and submitted it on our behalf. Said he was not charging the city his time for
That was
that.
going to be my question.
No, our planner's pretty great. He put that together, and I think he put it together for a few of his small cities.
And it's very template-y, so it
Yes.
probably wasn't a huge time.
Yes, it was pretty straightforward, but he acknowledged, right, especially since we've been talking about the comprehensive plan, we're in the middle of updating it, we've talked about potential UGB amendments, we've talked around a few of these items, and really in order to move forward with any of those, or to have even just a better understanding of some of those, the state's going to want to see a housing capacity analysis done for the city of Amity, which dives into what land do we have available, what's buildable, at what densities, and so like how much housing could the city actually build if we wanted to. Like if there weren't other restrictions, infrastructure, money, right, all that, what's actually available. And that goes into kind of planning efforts around, well, do we need more land in the city? Do we need to upzone some of our areas? Do we need to change some requirements here and there? What does it look like in order to move forward? These housing capacity analyses are a requirement of cities larger than 10,000 population. They're not a requirement of small cities like Amity. They tend to be very helpful or even a requirement if we're trying to go through the process of a UGB amendment. But on its own, we're not necessarily required to do them. Cities over 10,000 are. They're still finalizing some of the rules around what the housing capacity analysis can actually look like, and they're finalizing those rules at the state level. So none of this work is even going to begin before January 2026 at the earliest, after they finalize rules in the latter half of this year. So this grant funding, I believe I also heard this grant funding pot didn't get as much funding from the legislature as they had hoped. So it's a bit limited, and it's really going to be focused on the cities over 10,000 that are required, that this is a new requirement for. But there's an opportunity there. They said small cities are still welcome to apply. And our COG planner, Jim, said, well, let me go ahead and apply and see what happens. If we don't get it this year, maybe we can get it the year after that. And so he's filled out this application and then asked me if I would quickly bring it to council to get council support on it, because we need we needed that support sometime after the application was due, but before early September when they award the grantees. So, but the grant opportunity itself, I really appreciate it. It's one of those where DLCD will actually hire the consultant on the city's behalf. They'll handle the contracting, the administrative work on the back end. So it doesn't necessarily add a bunch to my plate, which I appreciate. It just means that we get to work with a consultant through the process of a housing capacity analysis and focus on the planning work itself. So.
Well,
Go ahead.
oh, I would say I appreciate the opportunity, and also even if we weren't awarded this year, it shows that paper trail of application, that it's something we have interest in or have a need for. So I'm glad to see that he took the initiative.
Yeah.
Councilor Borges?
I understand the benefit of the housing capacity analysis. If we find that our urban growth boundary isn't enough, does that trigger a timeline for us to take action?
I don't think it would trigger any sort of timeline in which the state's going to come after us if we don't upsize our UGB, or if we don't, kind of make those adjustments. It would probably prompt a conversation at least, but for a city of our size, I really don't think the state's gonna be overly concerned with, hey, you don't have a 20-year supply, right? Because
No place does?
yeah, there's that argument as well, but also I can show clearly that in 2010 we tried. We were told, right, that we can't take certain areas, that we're surrounded by prime farmland, right? There's all these challenges to Amity really growing or expanding. And so I think DLCD, anybody at the state level is going to understand that, oh, Amity doesn't have enough housing. Oh, but they're also surrounded by farmland. Maybe unless we change our rules, it's not going to be easy for them to do it. So they're not going to be too worried about
It's probably in our benefit too that we have such slow growth anyway. I mean, causation, correlation, but that.
I would say the slow growth is one of those for me that really feels cyclical, right? We don't have a bunch more people coming in every year because there's not available housing. But that also tells them that, oh, we shouldn't predict Amity's going to grow very fast. So I don't know how you answer that one technically, but yeah.
Well, and my question or concern was along the same vein, but I think my understanding is this analysis, that's what we'll get. We'll get an analysis of the situation. It doesn't, it's just more information for us to have to kind of gauge next steps. It's not a pipeline towards making us take action. So at the end of it, it won't be, if the results are this action needs to be taken. If these are the results, this is what you need to do. It just kind of opens those options, shows us where we're at now. And the comp plan we've been working on shows us the vision of where we want to go. And so it's a step closer to getting there, because these capacity analysis are required to do a lot of anything major as a next step.
Why does it take a year?
A year to complete. I think there's just a few phases of it. I mean, I think in the grant application itself, Jim put through, right, there's a project kickoff that, he put that in for a month. Housing need allocation review, that was a few months. Buildable land inventory, that's a few months. I don't know how many man hours it actually takes, but.
Well, and it only shows 7 months of it actually taking. It's just that it wouldn't start until at least 26, and it would have to be done by that date in 27. But his timeline just shows February to September of 2026.
They're also going to be working on, DLCD only has a few consultants, right? And so if they give out all these grants and all these contracts for a bunch of cities.
Span out their time.
Each consultant's going to have, several of these projects that they're working on.
That makes sense.
So, if I can add really quick though, your discussion about next steps So the full requirement for cities over 10,000 is a housing capacity analysis and then a housing production strategy. So that housing production strategy is the next steps. For cities over 10,000, the state is requiring, hey, figure out how much land you have, figure out what your housing looks like and what you need, and then you'd better figure out a plan for how to get there, right, in the next 5 years, essentially. Because we're smaller, right, we're not under those requirements specifically, which means we can choose not to do the housing production strategy as well. So we can just do the housing capacity analysis, get an idea of where we're at, not put as much focus or effort into, okay, Amity needs 800 more houses, how are we gonna get them, right? Or whatever that looks like, double the size of town. So.
But personally, I feel like more information is better. And so even if this is a single source of information and it's giving us one set of data based on their analysis, it's still information that we don't have right now, where we would just be pulling numbers out of anywhere. So it's a lot of work going into the supportive data that I don't even want to guess whether it would say we need 800 or we're set or, you know, we don't know. So I think that's always good if we have the opportunity to get more information to better meet people's needs.
It's definitely a backer for other grants as well, to say, we've done this, we know this is a need.
I will say I was surprised though to see this come through because there have been like long-term conversations or like I knew that this was a step in the process. So to see that Jim just did it and offered this was a surprise. So are there any other council questions?
Is Jim our new city planner?
Yes.
No more Holly?
Yep. So Holly Byram transitioned to focus on a few of her cities. She had several cities throughout the valley, and so they kind of narrowed her focus. And Jim Jacks from the COG has stepped into Amity's role.
Is that something that we could invite to a council meeting to meet so we're just familiar?
Yeah, we certainly could. He'll also be at the Planning Commission work session in August, or on the 18th, about the comprehensive plan. I can certainly invite him.
I think if we're not going to see him in September or October as a council, just asking for like the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I just think it's important that when we're seeing this work come through and seeing the bills every month, that everyone has a face to put towards who's working for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Well, when you're passionate about something, it's hard to step away. Are there? Yeah. Any other questions on this item? No? Do I have a motion concerning the application?
I move to approve the application for grant assistance through DLCD to complete a housing capacity analysis for the city of Amity.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the application for grant assistance through DLCD to complete a housing capacity analysis for the city of Amity, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. That finishes up our new business for the evening, and we will go into department reports. We'll start with our city administrator.
Yes. July was very busy for me. Ended up both with city things and with personal things that I didn't expect. During the month of July, I attended the annual OCCMA conference, had a great time networking with fellow city managers. I was able to carpool over to the conference with the Newburgh city manager. That was a great experience, got to know him really well, and learn a lot about what Newburgh's gone through and whatnot. But I just want to thank the council for being supportive of staff trainings such as that conference. I think especially in small cities, it's really important that the few limited staff we have receive that regular training and kind of keep up to date. Because there's so few of us and because we have to be an expert in so many different things. So going and seeing what other people are struggling with and learning from others, it's very helpful. The other thing that I had in July was jury duty for a week and a half there. So that took me out a little longer than I wanted, but we made do, and Public Works held it together really well. I think Gary and Clint have done an excellent job keeping things moving, keeping things going. We do have the job posting for our Public Works the job opening for our Public Works Superintendent posted. We haven't gotten too many applications yet, but we're hoping to kind of take a first look at whatever applications we have received by Friday. So hopefully we get a couple more. And then we were able to hire a couple of temporary / on-call librarians to help out while 2 of our 3 regular librarians take extended medical leaves. So that's been helpful to Anne. That training has been going along well. They seem like they'll be able to just kind of step right in and keep our library open for patrons, which Anne is very pleased by. I know she worries about closing the library anytime that happens. The culmination of July, I think, was the Amity Day celebration. It was very exciting. It was great to see those of you out there that were able to make it. We had a really great time. My wife has been able to serve on the Amity Day committee, so that meant my family was, especially committed, and it's been a lot of fun though, seeing kind of both sides, as well as just all the help from the community that we've had. Just a huge thank you to all who helped bring together Amity Day and made it a fun event for the community. The kind of final note, the water treatment plant's still continuing forward. I just received today, actually, a crucial component that we've been waiting on. And so hopefully we can get that installed by the end of the week and kind of keep our startup process moving along. And then the other big project that happened a little unexpectedly fast, our SCA paving project for the Enos and Stanley streets. I don't know if you've gone over and driven those streets yet, but if you haven't, go take a drive. It's kind of fun. Those streets are all brand new. Enos second, Stanley. The crew did a great job. They showed up Monday morning and had it all done by Tuesday evening. And so it looks really good. I think it fits in really good. I don't have any complaints about it. But if you see something wrong with it, let me know and I'll pass it on. The contractor has been really good about trying to fix anything we need. So.
Any questions for Nathan? I have a couple.
Okay.
So the water treatment, still moving ahead slowly but surely. We have the new intake online in the river this year. Has it helped? I know this is the time of year where we've been getting down on water. There's been worries about keeping our reservoir full. Has that improved this year from last and the one before and before and before?
I would say 100%. I would say it's way better than previous years. Just because as the river gets low, right, the old kind of existing intake really struggled. It really only had a pump that sat, it was a really low spot on the river where we were at. And so unless Public Works had gone through the effort of digging out the riverbank, which we're not allowed to do, then it would have remained a big issue. I don't know exactly where the water level's at now. It would be interesting to go out to the old intake and just take a look and see if we're below where if we're at a level where we would have been struggling. But I do know it's been really nice, both for myself and Public Works, to not have a worry about it at all. To just know that we're going to get as much water as we possibly need without concern. In fact, it's enabled us, we've been able to keep our filters running, basically both of our filters running with as much water as we could need, keep the city in water, and at the same time, divert some of that water that's being pumped to the city to the pretreatment building so that the contractor can run it through their new equipment, get that process started, and tested and really dialed in, and just kind of work through some of those initial startup phases so that we know the water from the pretreatment is coming out really nice and clean before we send it to our filters. I will say Public Works commented to me that they're really pleased with how clean the water is coming out of those pretreatment, that pretreatment facility. There was a little bit of doubt at the beginning of, whether or not it would be all that helpful, especially during the summer when the water's pretty clear already. But I don't know if these numbers are going to make sense at all. I can share turbidity numbers. Basically, the river water right now is about 5 NTUs, which our filters can run and clean, and we get it down to 1.8, 1.5 out of our existing filters. The pretreatment process is taking that 5.7 NTUs and bringing it down to a 0.009. So very clean water with really not any debris in it, and we're excited to see the full process come together when we can take that 0.009 and then run that through our filters and hopefully have really, really low turbidity. So,
Yay, thank you. Some of that I knew just because we haven't been on conservation alerts or asked to, hold back our water use, which, hopefully everyone should be having conservation efforts year-round just because of that important resource. But I've been waiting 4 summers to hear that we weren't in danger of not having enough water. So I'm very thankful that we've got to that monumental milestone.
I'll
as
keep
we're
you
in
posted
August.
through the end of August and into September. I'll keep an eye on the river level, and that's really the big question. We think we're in a hole that's deep enough that's never going to see an issue. But if for some reason the river got really low, then there could be an issue too. We really don't think so. We're below the historic low levels, but I'm keeping an eye on it. Gary of Public Works and I are both saying, well, we'll see how it goes through the end of September. And by the end of September, we're really in the clear. And so the water level starts coming back up and things are good. So.
My only other question, because I couldn't really glean it from the Keller invoices, is the Oak Street improvements. Where is that? And are we okay on our 2-year timeline of having construction completed?
I believe we are. They've finished essentially the conceptual design. I actually just emailed them to ask for a report on it too. They finished the conceptual design and they're wanting to start scheduling with the city for that 30% design. So we are moving fairly slow, especially in this beginning, but they're gathering like the geotechnical reports. They're gathering some of that and trying to put the concepts together. It hasn't, like you say, it hasn't necessarily been a focus, but I think we do have plenty of time on it. Really, that one, as long as we can get out to bid by March or April and plan for construction next summer, we're just fine.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to remember correctly, but I believe we signed the agreement and got the disbursement of funds earlier this year. So we would technically, if we have 2 years from the disbursement of funds, we would have until March of 2027. So as long as we're constructing in summer of 2026, we'll be just fine.
Any other questions for Nathan? Tasha, we have your report. Do you have anything to add?
Just a reminder for the artists who are
Any questions for Tasha? Okay. Anything else? Public Works, library, city engineer, attorney, planner related? Okay. If there's no other department questions, we'll move on to business from the mayor and city councilors. Council President Bojorquez, do you have anything for the good of the order?
Nothing to add.
Councilor Shields?
I do have a little bit of an update on the Oak Street because I met with the contractor yesterday.
Yeah,
And he said he's hoping to have the sewer line in by the end of September. He said he'd be really upset with himself in the situation if it couldn't happen. So whatever help or good that is yeah.
all right, well,
So, yeah. Other than that, I don't have anything else to add.
okay, thank you. Councilor Thompson?
Nothing to add.
Counselor Rachel Blanco?
Nothing to add.
Counselor Luker is absent. Counselor Michael Blanco? Anything?
Yeah.
Okay. And mayor's report, final comments. I have a few things. So I attended a meeting concerning the Amity Regional Water Authority. This is, I think I've brought it up before, just about like regional water solutions. But the Yamhill Regional Water Authority currently consists of McMinnville Water and Light, Carlton, and Lafayette. And then the $250,000 grant was received by the COG to explore what it would look like to expand that to other Yamhill County cities. But what I found out is that they're going to, one by one, each city, look at the current assets and liabilities we have with our water, what that looks long-term, and what maybe the pros and cons of entering into this regional water authority. And they're also doing exploration on what the governance of that would look like, because it would be everyone governing a water authority together. Although we know that Mac Water and Light holds many times the resources that all of we do, all the rest of us do. So that was an interesting meeting though, because there was representation from almost all of the Yamhill County cities. We had our state house representative, senator there. I'm trying to think, we had a county commissioner. And so it's just an ongoing discussion. Nothing is really coming to fruition, and the COG is working on this plan. So there's nothing to present. But I just want to be really transparent with you guys that I keep showing up to the meetings and listening. It's a lot of hearing the same thing over and over, but I think it's important that we're there and keep ourselves in that conversation. I also had the opportunity to meet with Nathan and DEQ to talk about the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund. That's the $300,000, some of which is forgivable. And so most of that is the flow study. And we just talked about what the rest of that grant funding or grant and loan funding could be used for. And so I think Nathan followed up with an email saying, these are things we'd really like to do. Is this considered planning? Can we use these funds for that? And so I anticipate we'll have an update when we find out that's going to look like. I want to echo that Amity Day was really successful. Thank you, everyone that could be part of that. It more than doubled, I would say, in involvement in the parade and vendors and people that were at the park. And the Amity Day committee worked really hard. We had our debrief meeting just to follow up, and that went really well. And there's already lots of ideas like, oh, this didn't go great, we want to do this better. Excitement for next year. And just today I had a community member that took part the day of the festival reach out and say, hey, I want to be part of that. Like, it's great what you're doing. Thank you for everything you guys have put on. How can I be part of it? And so I think that was really a big goal. And we got a pretty great article in the News Register. So I don't know if everyone got a chance to see that, but there's a copy at the library. National Night Out was last night. That also, I would say, doubled from last year, the amount of people that came. We had Sheriff Elliott making an appearance. the undersheriff, we had our city deputy there, CERT, the posse, the fire department, lots of happy kids and families. We raffled off 2 bikes that were donated by First Federal. So those 2 kids were extra happy. And then, the summer reading program celebration for all the local kids that were involved with the summer reading program, that's going to happen on August 16th from 10 to 12. Anne always can use extra help there, so if anyone is free that morning, just a couple hours. I usually get there about an hour ahead of time to help her set up, so maybe 9 to noon, but you're welcome to stop by, even if you just want to see the celebration and all the kids that were involved with that. And lastly, I saw the next city county dinner is August 20th in Carlton, and they're looking for an RSVP. The city county dinners are something that we've done quarterly for a long time, and it's just been in the last year that they've shifted to Wednesday nights. So I don't think that Amity has been represented there for close to a year, maybe. I think, so I just wanted to ask for any input of if there's a want to be part of those. Those are put on by the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, partnered with different cities. And it's just a chance that we meet with all the county elected officials, and we give updates from each city. We learn about the host city. So I felt like it's a good networking experience, a good chance to hear what other cities are doing, but they keep falling on nights that we already have meetings. So I think all of us, all council members are invited. Historically, we haven't had a huge council presence, but every time, all of you are invited to go. I think you should be receiving the emails. This is the latest invitation. Is that important to you all? And or rescheduling work sessions once a quarter to a different day might be an option to consider. Or work sessions can be held without me here in particular, or council president here in particular. One of us would need to be, as long as we have a quorum. So I'm just looking for input, possibly on this August 1 in particular, but also moving forward.
So I've attended a couple of those, and I think that they're a lot of fun for council to join. You do get to learn a lot about the city that's hosting, and then also everything that the other cities are going through. And it is a really great networking of like, oh, that's our issue too. How are you solving that? And you get to chat with all the people around you, and then people who speak or, you know, from the city of something that you are also working on that you want to accomplish. And oftentimes, because Amity is small, I mean, there's a lot of small cities in Yamhill, but you get a better perspective on how they're tackling some of the resource issues, or you know, what workarounds they've found. So I think it's a really great opportunity for everyone to go if they can, and they're fun. It's a nice community kind of event for cities and elected officials. I wouldn't mind moving a work session once a quarter if other people wanted to attend.
Any other input?
Quick question?
Yeah.
Where can I get more information about this? Because I don't.
Yeah. Tasha, do you know if the emails are going to all the counselors?
I'll go back and look.
So, yeah, and then, would you mind passing that down?
And then they just said it to me and I forwarded it out, but I didn't, just like, put it on our session.
Yeah. And then given that, is there interest and availability on attending one August 20th?
If we move the meeting, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I guess that would be next, if there's any opposition to moving the next work session.
I don't have a problem moving.
Okay, I'll look to our staff for availability on
That's some
dates.
staff days.
Yeah.
I don't. Probably, yeah. Planning's the 18th.
We
On
did
the
a
third
special
Monday.
session in July instead of a work session, right?
Yes.
And then the 27th is the
Is the-
barbecue, so it would have to be like on the 13th if we stuck with a Wednesday or.
I'm not available the 13th. There's also the option to just push it back one day, Thursday, the 21st.
I could do that.
I know Thursdays are tough. Can you guys do the 21st? Oh,
I'm out of town that week as well.
or the 19th?
We're supposed to have tourism committee, but I was gonna talk to you guys
Okay.
after this about that anyway. Like, I don't know.
I'm flexible for dates.
Okay. And I'm actually not available the 27th through the 29th, so that last week is.
Is there interest at all? Some cities hold the work session for, half an hour to an hour before their council meeting. Would we have an interest at all on September 3rd, coming at 6, having a hour-long work session, and then, it makes for a longer evening. But,
I think that would be tougher for me.
yeah,
Is there a long discussion to discuss it?
that, I don't know that I have much as of right now.
So it sounds like there's quite a bit of flexibility on rescheduling. Do we want to tentatively plan to skip it? And if we need to hold a work session before the next council meeting, you can reach out with like an availability poll? Would that be okay? Does anyone else have a pressing issue that we need to have a work session for? Okay. And then since we're here, does anyone want to RSVP with Tasha for the dinner, August 20th? I will say yes for Jesse.
11th.
The 13th.
Oh.
So I think ours would be the barbecue by 11 and that probably by the same time.
I can go to both.
Yep. And then I will have Jesse with me for this. And so that the city will cover the cost of the event for all counselors. If you want to bring a +1, you just cover their dinner cost.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, that mayor's report and comments took longer than I thought. Yes.
If I can add two quick things. Councilor Luker did email me, asked to be excused. He had an unexpected doctor's appointment in Portland. So he apologizes for missing so many of these meetings, but he's had a lot going on with his foot. If anybody has seen him recently or saw him at Amity Day, he affectionately calls his boot his Iron Man boot. He asked for camouflage, thinking, I'll get some nice green hunter camo, and they came out with neon pink camouflage for him. So he was real pleased with that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about briefly, and if I can just kind of get an awareness of if there's any concerns from the council or not, I mentioned it in my weekly report, but I recently met with PGE, and they have a program where they install level 2 chargers on power poles. And so they've identified a couple of spots in the city of Amity. One is the power pole basically on the corner in front of the Amity Market. So it's basically like the last parking spot on the right on that block. And then another one is the power pole kind of right across the street here in front of the empty lot. So basically, these municipal or this pole charging program, PG owns the chargers, they manage them, they maintain them all. Basically, they just ask the city for permission to install them. They're a box that sits way up high on the power poles themselves with a little QR code that is down at ground level. If somebody wants to use it to charge, they scan the QR code, a cord winds down from the box, and they grab it and can plug their vehicle in. The purpose of the program is to make it so that electric vehicles are more accessible, particularly in like low income or disadvantaged neighborhoods, apartments, things like that, where people wouldn't necessarily be able to install their own charger. But they also, they're level 2 chargers, so they don't necessarily charge super fast. So if you park downtown, you're not going to be ready to go again in an hour. But if you stop for lunch on your way through and you just want to get a little bit of a charge in, they can be nice for that. They will show up on people's charging maps. So could be a little bit of a draw to the downtown area, but also it provides that electric vehicle charging that people may not have access to elsewhere. So, yeah.
Would there, if it ended up being an issue of people parking for long extended periods of time or repeatedly, would it be an option for us to explore like a 4-hour parking max or something? We would still hold that authority, right? If we needed to do something with our parking.
Yes. So we still, the city still holds all the rights to, enforcing parking whichever way we want it. PGE explained that they've had some cities that designate those spots for electric vehicles and say nobody else can park there, but it's up to the city to enforce that. PGE is not going to come along and enforce parking. There's other cities that market for electric vehicles but don't necessarily say
Only.
don't necessarily say the only. There's others that don't mark them at all, and it's just normal street parking. And he said they've kind of gotten mixed success on all of those. It's a relatively new program. They've been doing it mostly this year, but they're trying to install as many as they can before the end of the year because that's when their funding goes away for installation. So
I think this spot right here would be great.
Yeah.
Then you're not taking prime downtown where a lot of deliveries happen, and it's still a block for people to walk if it's a draw into town.
I don't think either though, especially if we didn't say like electric parking only. So
I
if,
think this would get more use though than if it was there. I think that would end up just being more regular cars parking versus.
Yeah, I think we'd have to do like a 15-minute parking unless you're actively charging. And I think people don't park in those spots in front of the market for like significantly long chunks.
and it probably wouldn't be good to have longer term
Yeah.
parking there.
Yeah. But like here, I think would be better.
Yeah, somebody
for
could
longer
hang out
term.
there for a couple hours.
Yeah.
So
if it changes anything too, though, the city doesn't get any benefit, right? Like there's no income coming to the city for use of these chargers. So
But it's more of a draw to keep people here. I mean, if you're stopping to charge on your way to home to Salem or something.
So are we able to say, I mean, yeah, I think the answer is yes, but like, yes, we would want it here. No, we don't want it in the downtown core
we
further that way.
could say that if that's.
Because that's
what the
kind of
council
what
wants.
I'm hearing from council members. Counselor Blanco, do you have thoughts
Occasionally.
to share on this subject?
I think it's a good start. I agree that the one in front of the market might not be ideal. This one sounds, over here sounds a lot better. Perhaps they could review their options and see if there's another spot that would be also
Like, could they do one going the
a
other way?
better place. There's two, I think, certainly better than one. Two would be a good start. So if they're flexible considering the spot, maybe let's pursue that idea.
And so they explained some of the criteria. It has to be a pole that doesn't have, there's like PVC risers for other cable versions, right? So it has to not have those. It has to be fairly close to the curb. And I spent some time looking around kind of the downtown and kind of throughout with him. Not a ton of time, right? We didn't go all through the city. but those were the two that seemed easiest. There was another one more in front of Chevron, Chevron/Earth and Wood, that I asked him about, and he said he didn't actually see a reason why that one wouldn't work, and so he was gonna check on that one, but
You might want to consider the bus stop moving as well for, I don't know exactly where you're talking about with that one, but the bus shelter will be moving and changing the parking configuration in that area.
oh, just where they're redoing this curb, you're saying?
Yeah, the whole thing.
They're
is
moving the bus shelter down from the corner.
More towards that
Earth and
pole.
Wood.
I keep hearing that. You mean when they extend this curb, or like moving it a block?
They are moving it down the block.
It
So
has
it'll be on
nothing
the
to do with the curb,
same
they're just
block.
moving it.
Because I keep hearing that, and I haven't seen any. I've asked and have not seen any
So
official.
Cynthia
Yes.
has the engineering for it and has been working with
Okay.
ODOT.
Because I asked her about it and I didn't get. I mean, I asked her a while ago, but
It was in the slide deck, so.
she mentioned it, and
Okay.
but she wasn't sure on the location when she came and visited. So I asked her in an email after if I could
Yeah.
get the exact locations, and I never heard back. So,
Interesting,
but
okay.
I can follow up again and see. I think ODOT did mention that too, that they were working with her about potentially moving him, but ODOT, kind of similar issue. I asked where exactly, and
Because she brought it up again when she presented her plan to the commissioners. So I've just heard it a couple times, but only from her. Counselor Shields, thoughts on chargers?
I don't have any issue against them, except for if we're considering a spot in front of a business, I would encourage us to reach out to the business and get their input on it, because it could potentially affect their business, especially ones that tend to have customers in and out a lot.
Like the market, yeah.
Yeah, like the market. But on the other hand, if the market is real pro-electric car, they might say, please put it there. We love that idea. But if we're gonna consider a spot in front of the business, I would recommend we talk to the business first and at least give them the opportunity to have a voice.
Counselor Blanco?
I agree with that, and I don't think that the one up by the market is a good idea, because I go to the market frequently, and most people who park there are just like in and out really quickly, and I just don't think it's like an appropriate spot, considering how that area is used.
One other
Yeah.
point, I definitely think we should discuss the idea of how this parking space is addressed, as whether there's any restrictions or some kind of restriction on it. Because because people will talk, and if they say, yeah, they're supposedly damn, they're always someone parked there, you can't get to it, they don't wanna hear that either.
So I will say the one across the street, the one, semi trucks park there a lot. Cause they have nowhere else to park anyway, so that's what they usually park, so the restriction.
I think if you just market EV parking and leave it at that without necessarily it being monitored, most people will self-monitor and not park there.
Yeah, especially if it's just the length of a regular parking spot
Right.
that doesn't take up the whole block from other use. Nathan, was that much more input than you were hoping for, expecting?
I mean, input's always good, but yeah. So it sounds like I should tell them, let's hold off on the downtown one, but we can go ahead with the one here.
Yeah, and let's see how that goes, and if we feel like it's getting used a lot and that we would benefit in having another one.
And it would be especially helpful if they were willing to identify spots and say, this one will do, this one will do, this one will do, and so that we have options to consider as well as, like you say, speaking to any shop owners in those areas too.
Yeah.
Once we
So-
knew the target spots.
Yeah, we would like more than one, but not necessarily right on our business frontage in those
Okay.
2 blocks.
And I would be curious about the feasibility of having one on the northbound side, just so people that are going either direction have easy access.
But there's no parking.
Yeah, is there like a little bit back? Yeah,
I
oh
think
yeah.
if you looked at where the poles are, I imagine that you,
Oh, adjacent the
I'd say
grassy
it
area.
has to be very specific, and I mean, I can kind of look at, it. PGE told me that
Yeah.
they looked throughout the city of Amity, and those were the
Okay.
2 spots they came up with. Now, I can certainly look
Yeah.
again and kind of check their work and,
What it sounds
go
like
based off
is
of their
I think
criteria.
council wouldn't mind and would like to see the go-ahead on one and leave it at there for now.
okay.
Consensus? Okay. Anything else for the good of the order this evening? All right, we have just passed the 1 hour threshold of this meeting. I'll ask for a final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned at 8:01.